Previously, our main character meets an unfortunate end, caught in a tragic accident during the exciting finale of the famous Patissier World Tournament. A kind goddess, sensing his deep regret, recognizes his sincere desire and arranges for him to be reborn in a different world as a boy named Pastry, the son of a noble lord. With this second chance, our hero sets out on a brave journey, aiming to use his exceptional baking skills to create a land of delightful sweets that will bring smiles to everyone's faces. Now the story continues, as we see the secondary estate of Duke Cattlesec, located at the royal capital. Pastry and Casserole attend the coming-of-age celebration of the Duke's eldest heir. The Duke takes shots at his grandson, calling him a child despite being grown, but Casserole glosses past those comments and expresses his honor to be invited to the banquet. The Duke is flattered to hear such words coming from a hero of Casserole's stature. The Duke officially introduces the man of the hour and adds that the young man graduated first in his class at the officers' boarding school. Squale blushes as he expresses how much of a privilege it is to meet the war hero. Casserole encourages him to be more informal with him since Squale is of a higher rank. The Duke reveals that his grandson idolizes Casserole and has been looking forward to meeting him, which is why he's behaving like a fangirl. The youth present are big fans of Casserole, and their conversation then turns to Pastry, who introduces himself in such an elegant manner that they are in awe. The Duke has heard that Pastry has also come of age and wants to know if he was blessed with magic. Pastry confirms the statement, which makes the Duke happy, as it is clear that both father and son are gifted, and the mortal household has earned God's favor. He asks Pastry to demonstrate the kind of magic he was bestowed with. Pastry pleads for the cloth of one of the waiters and, as he holds it, uses his magic to replicate the portrait of Lady Petra. Everyone is impressed by the quality of the picture, and the Duke takes it, as he has the magic to create pictures. Squale is smitten by Lady Petra, and Pastry reveals that the portrait is a gift for Squale on behalf of himself and Margrave Hubric, the Duke's third daughter, who is not in attendance. Pastry explains that Lady Petra is the third daughter of Lord Hubric, and he and his father made a trip there earlier, where they met her. Casserole explains that the land of Margravate is constantly feuding with its neighbor, creating a challenge for Lady Petra if she were to leave their territory. So Hubric asks them to introduce her on his behalf. Squale finds her so charming, and the father and son look at each other smugly, as the debut of their service seems to be going well. Pastry continues his next display by informing Squale that Petra will be having a celebration for her coming of age, and he was hoping that Squale would attend as an expression of interest. Squale interrupts his grandfather just as he's about to reject the idea and expresses his willingness to go. The Duke looks at him like he's a fool, reminding them that they need to make certain considerations before responding. The Duke can see that Casserole and Pastry are trying to play Cupid, and he knows that Pastry is not to be underestimated just because he's a child. The Viscount tries to stall by bringing up the traveling challenges, but Pastry addresses it with his father's teleportation magic. The boy realizes that the Duke is a little apprehensive about the meeting, so he privately discloses some information. During his visit, he realized that Hubric had an ulterior motive for wanting this marriage. Pastry believes that the Lord has grown weary of the constant border feuds. The Viscount doesn't understand how all of this is relevant, but the boy explains that Hubric wishes to use the powerful military that the Duke controls to diminish the opponent's fighting spirit, which would end the feud forever. The Viscount's face relaxes as he thanks Pastry for the insight, stating that he will keep that in mind when making the final decision. The Duke then makes an official announcement that he, too, will be going to the celebration and hopes that his grandson will find his romantic destiny. He informs Casserole that he will be putting himself in his hands. As the party continues, Squale joins Pastry and expresses his intention to become friendly on a first-name basis. He asks Pastry more about Petra and what she likes, as he's interested in knowing the kinds of things she enjoys. Pastry informs him that it appears she likes sweets and that he presented her with some handmade cookies on their first meeting, and she seemed to like them. Squale asks Pastry if he's skilled in making sweets, and Pastry happily shares how much he enjoys making them. Squale then brings him back on topic when he starts to get carried away, expressing his desire for Petra's portrait to be a little more sensual, but Pastry can see the thirstiness in Squale's eyes. Some time passes after the celebration, and the father and son are back on their territory. Everyone is still busy working to restore the villages. Casserole has decided to personally bear the cost of food and firewood while they undertake the restoration. Fi comments that it is unheard of for a lord to go out to earn money to make life easier for his subjects. Casserole understands that it might not be dignified, but he's willing to do whatever it takes to ensure his people don't starve. Pastry interrupts their discussion as he presents some letters that have arrived for his father. One is from the Duke, and the other is from Hubric. Casserole reads both letters and informs his son and head retainer that they have a windfall coming their way. They will be paid 20,000 silver coins for matching Petra and Squale. The engagement has been agreed upon, and from the letter, it seems like they plan to announce it privately when Petra comes of age. Pastry is ecstatic, knowing that all the hours spent producing the matchmaking photos were worth it, as it took 2 days for Hubric to approve the final portrait. Casserole continues that they will also receive an advance of 30 gold coins for the funding of Petra's security detail. Hubrick wants them to keep her safe throughout the whole process. They are well aware of the potential opposition to the union between these two powerful households, so they must be cautious and keep the engagement a secret. Pastry points out that the church might pose a problem, and Casserole agrees. He reveals that the church is officially a neutral entity, but a large enough bribe can loosen their tongues. However, since they are also neutral, they have access to a lot of information that would be difficult for others to obtain. Casserole can effectively protect Petra herself with his teleportation spell, but the challenge lies in transporting her guards and other attendees to the capital. They need to secure guards for her at the capital if he transports her alone. The head retainer hopes that they can keep this secret engagement discreet and avoid any leaks. Phi points out the risk of hiring aid in the capital, as unsavory agents might infiltrate their hires. However, Casserole is determined to successfully complete the job and earn the trust of two major players in the kingdom. Pastry agrees, as it would also help him achieve his dream of creating a land of sweets. He comes up with the idea of using the true sanctification ritual chamber, a secure place with no windows and thick walls, to keep Petra safe during the coming-of-age ritual at the capital. They will pretend her ritual is running longer, but in reality, she'll be in the chamber until the engagement is announced. Everyone is happy with the plan, and Flight suggests repurposing the 30 gold coins if they don't need to hire mercenaries. Pastry presents a receipt for materials he bought from the traveling merchant, which included apples and sugar for making sweets. Casserole scolds him for using the funds for personal purposes, and his allowance is revoked. On the day of Petra's transport, Casserole and Pastry are welcomed by Hubrick. Casserole explains Pastry's presence is keeping Petra company, but in reality, Pastry is there to oversee the plan secretly. He greets Hubrick, who attributes the success of the marriage to Casserole's magic. After the formalities, they enter the carriage where Petra is already inside. She greets them warmly and thanks them for accompanying her. Casserole compliments her, and Pastry expresses his greeting as well, mentioning how she enjoyed the cookies he gifted her. Petra excitedly confesses that she's been dreaming about the cookies ever since Pastry gave them to her. Pastry begins to explain the process of making sweets, but their conversation is interrupted by Petra's mother, signaling that they are in a hurry. Casserole apologizes, and they enter the carriage. After sitting, Pastry greets Licorice, Petra's younger sister, who responds with a dry attitude. Petra encourages her to be more forthcoming, considering the risk they are taking to escort them. Licorice asks for forgiveness, and Pastry doesn't take her rudeness to heart. They move on, and as everyone sits in their seats, they discuss the plan. The first stage is to enter a church within the Margravate borders, claiming it's for true sanctification. From there, they will teleport to the church in the capital, where Petra will stay in the chamber until the engagement is announced. They already have a unit there to stand guard. Hubrick warns Casserole that those seeking to harm his daughter are making their move, but Casserole assures him that his men are prepared to protect her as they move through the streets. The enemy follows them in the shadows. When the carriage arrives at the first church, they step out with their swords drawn to ensure it's safe. Unfortunately, the enemy launches an attack, but the fathers fend them off. Another attacker emerges, but Pastry stops him, vowing not to let anyone harm the ladies. Casserole joins in, and they defeat the attackers, who flee when they realize they are outmatched. Hubrick commends Casserole and Pastry for their service and expresses gratitude for protecting his daughters. Licorice becomes fearful, but Pastry assures her they are safe, as they are all together. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe our channel, Annie Explainer.